Lost Odyssey, 2007. Lost Odyssey is often remembered fondly by longtime Xbox fans, but sadly slipped under the radar for many players. Developed by Mistwalker, a studio founded by Hironobu Sakaguchi, the creator of Final Fantasy, the game brought a true Japanese RPG experience to the Xbox 360 era. Its story revolves around Kaim Argonar, an immortal warrior grappling with centuries of memories, grief, and loss. The emotional depth of the narrative, particularly the short story vignettes called 1,000 Years of Dreams, touched players in a way few games have. Despite this rich storytelling, Lost Odyssey didn't achieve massive commercial success, largely due to the dominance of Western RPGs at the time. Its turn-based combat, orchestral soundtrack by Nobuo Uematsu, and heartfelt narrative make it a masterpiece that deserves far more recognition today. Many consider it the best JRPG on Xbox consoles, yet it rarely appears in mainstream conversations. Sunset Overdrive, 2014. Before Insomniac Games became synonymous with PlayStation's Spider-Man, they created Sunset Overdrive exclusively for Xbox One. This game was a vibrant, fast-paced open-world shooter, set in a city overrun by mutants caused by a contaminated energy drink. It stood out for its over-the-top humor, colorful art style, and fluid traversal mechanics that encourage players to grind, bounce, and zip around the city rather than sticking to the ground. While critics praised its originality and fun factor, it didn't get the attention it deserved, possibly because it launched during the Xbox One's rocky early years. Today, it's remembered as a cult classic that showed what Xbox exclusives could be: inventive, stylish, and unapologetically fun. Fans still hope for a sequel, but Sunset Overdrive remains one of the most underrated gems of the Xbox library. Enslaved Odyssey to the West, 2010. Developed by Ninja Theory, Enslaved Odyssey to the West combined post-apocalyptic sci-fi themes with a narrative loosely inspired by the Chinese novel Journey to the West. The story follows Monkey and Trip as they traverse a ruined world controlled by hostile machines. What set this game apart was its strong character development, emotional performances, especially by Andy Serkis as Monkey, and breathtakingly lush environments. It blended platforming, combat, and storytelling in a way that felt cinematic and heartfelt. Unfortunately, Enslaved never achieved blockbuster status due to minimal marketing and stiff competition from other big releases at the time. For players who discovered it, though, it became a hidden treasure that showcased Ninja Theory's storytelling prowess before they went on to create Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. Quantum Break, 2016. Quantum Break, developed by Remedy Entertainment, was an ambitious mix of third-person shooter gameplay and live-action television episodes. Starring Sean Ashmore and Aidan Gillen, the game followed protagonist Jack Joyce as he battled to stop a collapsing timeline caused by a botched time travel experiment. Its time manipulation mechanics, freezing enemies, dodging bullets, and rewinding moments in battle were incredibly inventive, giving combat a dynamic feel. While the integration of episodic TV-style storytelling was ahead of its time, it confused some players and overshadowed the gameplay for others. As a result, Quantum Break didn't get the recognition it deserved, despite being one of the most unique and cinematic experiences available on Xbox. Today, it stands as a reminder of Xbox's willingness to take creative risks and deserves a second look. ReCore, 2016. At launch, ReCore struggled due to technical issues and limited content, which sadly overshadowed its potential. Developed by Concept and Armature Studio, with input from Keiji Inafune, known for Mega Man, the game offered a mix of platforming, combat, and exploration in a desolate sci-fi world. Players controlled Jewel, a scavenger accompanied by a team of robotic companions, each with unique abilities. The game's charm lay in these robot allies, the sense of adventure in exploring the dusty wastelands, and the puzzle platforming elements reminiscent of classic action games. Over time, with updates in the definitive edition, ReCore became a much more polished and enjoyable experience. Unfortunately, by then, many had moved on, leaving it as one of Xbox's most overlooked gems. The Saboteur, 2009. The Saboteur, developed by Pandemic Studios, offered players a stylish open-world adventure set in Nazi-occupied France during World War II. You played as Sean Devlin, an Irish race car driver turned resistance fighter. The game's standout visual style used a mix of black and white environments in oppressed areas that would bloom into vibrant colors as players liberated districts. This artistic touch symbolized hope returning to the city and added a unique flair to gameplay. With fun stealth mechanics, explosive sabotage missions, and an evocative setting, the game should have been a bigger hit. Sadly, it was released during the studio's closure and didn't receive the post-launch support it deserved. Even so, The Saboteur remains an underrated classic that showed creativity in both storytelling and gameplay. Blue Dragon 2006. Another gem for fans of traditional JRPGs, Blue Dragon was one of the earliest attempts by Xbox to appeal to the Japanese gaming market. Developed by Mistwalker and helmed by Final Fantasy legends Hironobu Sakaguchi and Akira Toriyama, creator of Dragon Ball, the game followed a group of young heroes who could summon magical shadow creatures. It stood out for its charming art style, turn-based combat, and nostalgic feel that harkened back to classic RPGs of the 90s. Unfortunately, it never gained widespread popularity outside of dedicated RPG fans, partly because the genre wasn't as dominant in the Xbox ecosystem. For those who love JRPGs, however, Blue Dragon remains a charming and heartfelt adventure that deserves far more recognition than it ever received. Spec Ops: The Line 2012. Although available on multiple platforms, Spec Ops: The Line deserves a mention because of how it stood out on Xbox. At first glance, it seemed like just another modern military shooter. But as players delved deeper into the story, it became clear it was something entirely different. Inspired by Apocalypse Now, the narrative explored the psychological horrors of war and forced players to confront the consequences of their actions. The infamous White Phosphorus mission shocked players and sparked discussions about morality in games. Unfortunately, its lack of multiplayer longevity and being overshadowed by bigger shooters like Call of Duty and Battlefield kept it from mainstream success. Today, it's remembered as one of the most thought-provoking and underrated story-driven shooters of its era. D4: Dark Dreams Don't Die 2014. This episodic mystery adventure game from the eccentric mind of Swery65, Deadly Premonition, was one of the quirkiest games ever released on Xbox One. Players followed David Young, a detective trying to solve his wife's murder, using time travel to revisit key moments from the past. The game's bizarre characters, surreal humor, and unique Kinect motion control mechanics set it apart from typical adventure titles. Unfortunately, D4 was cut short before its story could be fully told due to low sales, leaving it as an unfinished but fascinating piece of Xbox history. Fans of strange offbeat games often cite D4 as one of the console's weirdest but most underrated experiences. Bulletstorm 2011. Bulletstorm, developed by People Can Fly, took the first-person shooter genre and added a dose of irreverent humor and over-the-top action. Rather than rewarding traditional gunplay, the game encouraged creative kills using its skill shot system. Players could use environmental hazards, a gravity whip, and outrageous combos to rack up points. Its fast-paced, chaotic gameplay and brash writing made it stand out, but it launched during a crowded season for shooters and didn't sell as well as it should have. Despite this, it remains a cult classic, beloved for its creativity and explosive fun. Later re-released as Bulletstorm, full clip edition to introduce it to a new generation of players.